Taurus, your in-depth monthly horoscope for July 2024 for the ascendant, the sun or the moon. On the screen now I'm showing your event chart right at the start of the month, and your ruler Venus is right at the heart of the action, forging a link to Mars in your sign. Mars stays with you in Taurus through to the 20th of this month, encouraging you to really strike out in a very decisive, individual way. But it's your communications that are blessed with the energy in Cancer right at the start of this month. And Venus in the third house can be quite the charmer. So when it comes to expressing your words, you can do so with a lot of passion and conviction, Mars, but also a good deal of grace, Venus. So if there's someone you're interested in or someone you want to impress in terms of your work, that's a fabulous combination. But it doesn't end there, Taurus, because the moon is in your sign as July begins, and the moon is exalted in Taurus, so it really loves being with you, and that's linking to the sun in a sextile too. Now, when the sun and the moon are balanced, that gives us a natural equilibrium between our feeling needs, but also our desire to express our individuality. And the moon in our own sign is good for that because it helps us to be a bit more single-minded. Nothing wrong with that at all. But also you've got Uranus, which is, of course, been rather a restless, disruptive influence at times since full time since March 2019. That's linking brilliantly to Mercury in Cancer. Now, the sign of Cancer is very much about emotion. It's about security, how we feel about things. But the third house for you is about how we deliver the message. It's our interaction. And of course, Mercury rules the third house through being the sole domiciliary ruler of the sign of Gemini, which is about those quick, fast, speedy communications. So I think as you come into this month, there is an opportunity for you to really feel on top form. But also Venus, your ruler, is linking very constructively to Saturn, the planet of limitation, which is in your sector of long-term plans and friendships. If there is someone that you're orientating towards who is a good alliance for you, that's on solid ground, you have shared principles or values or belief systems, or you work well together, or you support a sports team, that relationship can also get very steady. Now, Jupiter, the planet of fortune, is in your second house, can be about everyday money, and that's linking really well to the sun in a semi-sextile. So you can see as you come into July, you're really set fair to impress people with your drive, your passion, your determination, but the fact that you can articulate your ideas much more effectively. Because if you are someone who runs a little bit on the shy or reserved side, this particular event chart at the start of July really does give you a fabulous platform. If you're someone who's naturally quite gregarious, then that's just going to be turned up to max. What's not to like? Well, Mercury, the planet of communication, does switch out of Cancer on the 2nd and moves into your home sector. And this is really the first of three major changes this month, which does realign your focus as the month goes on. But I think it starts in a very interactive way, a potentially sociable way. If you have got ideas you need to share, you're going to really be wanting to engage with people. But Mercury moving into the fourth house can see us think more about where we live, who we live with, how we live there, maybe about the kind of tech you have at home. You know, do you have good broadband, for example? Mercury about communication in your residency. If not, you're going to want to check out how to improve that. If you work from home, even if only some of the time, you're going to need that space to work well, to be efficient, to give you the peace and quiet to really be very productive when you are needing to concentrate. But also Mercury moving into the fourth house, despite the host being very charismatic, Leo, can be a little bit more reserved, and it does go face to face with Pluto. If you are dealing with someone, particularly professionally, who's not so aligned with where you're coming from, that could be a factor almost straight away, because Mercury goes face to face with Pluto, and on the screen you can see that Pluto is right up there on the 10th house cusp of your solar chart. Now, that can work in different ways. Pluto in the 10th house can have a reluctance to be in the spotlight, but somehow or another people end up there natally. Or it can give you a greater desire to raise your profile, but because it is in a discordant opposition to Mercury, if you don't choose your words quite right, or you let the subjectivity, which can occur in the 4th house with Mercury, get in the way, that could be something that just inhibits you a little bit. So it may be that you're going to encounter someone who feels that you're a little too perhaps dominating. That may be how they see it. It could be a family member, it could be a friend, and that could be quite hurtful. Or it may be that you experience someone who seems to want everything on their terms. So although you start this month with this hugely beneficial set of influences, do buckle up, because as it goes on, you are going to need to use your craft and your wisdom and shrewdness as these oppositions with Pluto occur. But the new moon, I have to say, on the 5th really is lovely. It gives you a great chance to sparkle when it comes to expressing yourself, but meaningfully, because the host is Cancer. But it does square up, or T squares up to the nodal axis. And for you, the position of the North Node, the point of destiny, is in your 12th house. So something could come up over the next month that you do feel a little bit more vulnerable about. It could be a conversation, it could be a thought. Maybe it is going to be something from your past, maybe something you'd prefer to keep quiet, somehow or another gets teased into the open. All of those strands are possible, but then your ruler, Venus, moves to join with Mercury on the 12th. And if you are wanting to do some home decoration or improvements, get some new home furnishings, this is an ideal juncture to do so. But also it's a great time to reconnect with people who are really important to you. But again, Pluto is in opposition in week 2. Venus and Pluto oppositions are really interesting in terms of, I'll be very blunt with you, sex or money, as are squares, because Pluto can be about power, but it also in Aquarius can be a bit more about detachment, whereas Mercury and Venus in Leo for you is more tender, more sensitive. So it may be just as you've got that traction going at the start of this month, suddenly you're going to encounter someone who sees things very differently to you and points things out in a very blunt or stark way, but it may feel as if they want to have some kind of power over you, some kind of leverage or control. And certainly if someone does start to chat you up, could be through your professional situation with Pluto in the 10th house, do listen to your inner voice, because Venus in the 4th house is very much about protecting yourself and staying secure. But because it's in Leo, it means that even if you are feeling quieter, you can still draw a lot of attention, which in itself is very flattering, but it's got to be for the right reason. So be mindful of your responses, your motives, and those of anyone you encounter with that opposition. But then on the 20th, Mars is saying au revoir to you. It's been with you for 6 weeks, giving you a cracking opportunity to really get stuck in and work hard on focusing on the best parts of what you're working on at the particular time we've gone through. And it's moving to Gemini on the 20th also links to Pluto. And it's interesting because even if you have felt that someone was maybe a little critical or using their power in a little bit of a cool way, making you feel at times unsure of your role, that early work you did in the month can come back to you. And if you're applying or have been applying for a new job, it could come to you, and it could come in a very pleasing way as Mars links so powerfully to Pluto around the 20th for the following 2 or 3 days, and that is an awesome chance for you to strut your stuff with more assertion. But how do you deal with the Mercury and Venus combination? Well, I think you use your sensitivity as an asset. You don't see it as something to inhibit what you want to do, but just be mindful of not exposing yourself to a situation which could see you feeling a little more vulnerable. But then on the 21st, we have the second of the 2 consecutive Capricorn full moons. The last one, yeah, that was quite tricky, to be honest. There may have been some intense conversations a month ago, and maybe some people's reactions to what you had to say were hard to swallow. Now I feel you've learnt a lot over that period of time, and all the planetary influences at the start of July are so supportive to you. They really are. And if there is something that does need to be revisited, this time you're going to be ready. But this time you've got Mars applying to Pluto in a very assertive way. So if you need to stand up for yourself, you'll stand up to yourself for fun. But on the 22nd, the Sun joins with Mercury and Venus in Leo. It's that part of the year when you can really start to enjoy, for the following month, anything that's homely, family-based, to do with reunions or being with people that you just don't have to really try to be with, people that you can just be your natural self, or can you? Because Pluto's applying in an opposition to the Sun. It's one of astrology's toughest influences, to be honest, because Pluto's about transformation. It may be that someone close to you can see what you're doing, but they may still have a judgment. It may be someone who just assumes that they have the right to opine on your situation, or be the person who plays the role of the parent. Could even be a friend, could even be your partner. But that power dynamic could be unsettling to you if it's not what you really want. The good thing, however, Taurus, is that Mercury moves into your sister Earth sign of Virgo, a sign that it rules on the 25th. And this helps you to just use a little bit of humour to just move things along. You can pivot quickly. For sure, the precision of Virgo's there, but also the playfulness of the 5th house. Now, Chiron does go into a retrograde on the 26th through to the 26th of December. Chiron in the 12th house, as it's been for some time, is quite tricky. It's where we can feel very vulnerable at times, but it's also where we can be hugely compassionate. And I feel that you have been supporting people with your kindness, your insights, your encouragement and your nurture, with the help of both the North Node in your 12th house, but also Chiron. But it is also important to make sure that our emotional world and our emotional cocoon is the area that is most strongly defended. So as you come to the end of this month, that's really the focus. But you're going to start this month in a very dynamic, playful and very sparkly way, but you can have that high point around your career despite the potential for challenges. But then towards the end of this month, I think you may just want to withdraw a little bit, have more time quietly, perhaps in nature, perhaps at home, just recharging your batteries. If you can get away to somewhere that's very familiar and comfortable to you, or you spend time with people who tend to be very restorative, that can be a very smart thing to do as this month draws to a close. But in terms of the angle between the Sun and Mars, the last week of the month, if you are wanting to make some home changes, oh my word, you can really show so much drive to get them finished or primed up and started. If you're drawing up some plans or getting some quotes on the cost, you can really, things will start to move at a much greater rate of knots. But it is essentially about beefing up the foundations and security of your world towards the end of this month, rather than being so playful, interactive and connected to others. It's been a real pleasure being with you. Have a great July, and if you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now.